Hi all and welcome to a special edition, the Christmas edition of On The Road Tuning with me, ACDodd. And today I've got some real Christmas crackers for you. I've got a beautiful Mini City and an absolutely stunning Mark 1 early MG Metro. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay, so December and we're in Bedford for this Christmas special. And we've got a lovely Mini City. When I say lovely, look at this. Lovely basic interior, fantastic looking car. It's had a few, there's a few modifications, different gauges in the dash. Other than that, looking every bit as standard as when it was made. Let's have a look under the bonnet. Okay, so under the bonnet we have the usual A-Series engine. When I say A-Series, this is a 998. It's an A+ engine, but it is the low compression version. So, let's have a go and have a chat with the owner and see why he's called us down. Okay, so this is Connor.
Hello.
Connor's the owner of this fantastic Mini City.
Yes.
So, why have you called us here today, Connor?
Well, I've just finished rebuilding the engine bay, so essentially slung everything together in about 3.5 weeks or so. A bit of a rush job, but essentially runs all right, quite flat, get good mileage out of it, could be better, and it just really lacks that power at the top end. So yeah.
Okay, all right. As I say, it does sound quite nice, so let's have a dig in and see what's going on.
Excellent.
I just want to add a little bit into the video here. You heard me say there that this was a low compression A-Series or A+ engine. Around 1981, when the Minis were made, it was possible to buy a Mini with the A+ engine, but was actually the A+ engine wasn't the high compression one that everybody talks about now. In reality, what they'd done is they'd effectively, the factory had changed all the castings and all the parts, but the specification was still that of the old low compression 998 engine with the mild camshaft. So that's exactly what we have here. It's a low compression 8.3 to 1 compression 998 with the pre A+ cam timing figures on. If you just strip the engine down, you'd see it's an A+ cam, but it's got the hasn't got the A+ 998 profile. So just to clear that up, so this engine isn't your normal sort of factory 41 horsepower or whatever the A+ was. This is kind of 38, if that makes sense. But as you'll see, we'll make this considerably better. Okay, so we've already started on this one. So coil is a 3 ohm unit. We've got illumination magnetronic kit in there, which is all working. Advanced curve's good on this distributor, so we're not going to change any of this today. This is a low compression engine, so you know, it's not as imperative to change this whole system for a monster high power one when you've got a low compression engine. And you know, it's easy to spend customers' money, whereas if I just change the leads, which is what I'm doing, I've changed the plugs for a set of BP5s. We had some Lucas LP004s. We're running a bit black on the end, so clearly I'm not sure on the heat range on these, so that's why I'm changing them to some BP5s, so I know where I am. Gapped them all at 25 thou, and then we'll turn our attention to the carburation. Okay, sometimes when you come to a customer's car, you know, it's all very easy just to throw the checkbook at it and replace everything. But what you have to do when you're making these decisions about what to fit on the car is you have to look at the condition of the parts and what's fitted, etc, etc. Now, this engine had a 3 ohm coil and the wrong plugs, or potentially the wrong plugs. And, you know, yes, no doubt I could have made that engine run better if I'd have put a high power distributor on it, high power coil and all the rest of it. But the reality is that engine's just not going to get the full benefit of having that. You know, does it actually need it? In this particular case, everything that was on there, including the advanced curve in the distributor that was already in the engine, was actually pretty ideal for that spec. So it was pretty pointless me just ripping it all out. Already had illumination magnetronic in there, so I just left it as it was, but just fitted new leads and new plugs and then gapped them properly to make sure that that engine ran well. And I will add on this particular one that Connor, the owner, had actually gapped his plugs, which he's probably only the second or third person in this entire year that's done that. So please remember, gap your spark plugs. Right, so got to the end of this one. Nice and straightforward, actually. It was just well out of tune on the needle. So still got the original coil, which is a 3 ohm unit. We changed the leads, put a new set of BP5 spark plugs, set the timing. It's already got a lumination ignition kit, so I'll set the timing 10 degrees static, giving us about 32 degrees full in. So yeah, this low compression engine's pretty much all there for the ignition system. Oh, by the way, just in case you hadn't noticed, yes, the master cylinder is missing, so this car isn't road drivable. Moving over to the carburetor, we drilled the airbox, so that's nice and ventilated now, and it was fitted with an AAU needle, which was very, very lean. So some extensive modifications on that needle, and this engine's responding really well. So start it up. So you can see she starts on the button, give it a rev. So I'm sure that when we get some brakes on it, this one's going to run really well. Okay, so Connor can't drive his car on the road, but he has gone up the road using the handbrake very carefully, and he hasn't left the road actually, so but he's just about to put it on the trailer. But what do you think so far?
Absolutely delighted. Yeah, wasn't expecting it to get wheel spin when I took off. Made for a harebrained stop down there at the end, but no, it all went very well. Runs a treat. It's absolutely brilliant. Really happy with it.
Wonderful. So yeah, this is interesting because this is an absolutely standard car. Were you surprised at the difference?
Staggered, yeah. I was so used to these 998s being so asthmatic and frankly quite slow. Yeah, completely different kettle of fish now.
Wonderful.
Really wonderful car.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. One thing I will ask you to do is once you do get it on the road, so you can open it right up and take it up through the gearbox and all the rest of it, will you come back and comment on this video?
Oh, happily.
Wonderful.
Happily.
All right. Anyway, thanks for letting me work on such a lovely car, and I'll look forward to you being able to open it up when it's on the road.
Me and you both.
Just before we round off with that car, I'll just add one of the things that I discussed there with Connor was back in the day when we had cars like that looked original. One of the things we used to do, certainly when I was a teenager, was you know, make them go faster, so that when you open the bonnet and look at the car, it all looks completely standard. So to that end, I just said, well, perhaps a couple of bolt-ons for the future if you're thinking about upping the performance, but without doing anything else to the car. You know, you can consider putting a sort of a modified cylinder head on the car. I'm only talking a fast road, you know, nothing massively ported out, and a set of 1.3 rockers. And if you used a set of my 1.3 rockers, for example, they look like standard ones. So when you open the bonnet and look inside, you think, hang on, this is a completely standard engine. But actually, when you drive it, you go, oh, this goes really well for 1,000. Now, I appreciate that if you don't fit a stage 1 kit and a free flow exhaust, you don't get the full benefits, but you do definitely get an increase over what you've got now. So you know, one of the things back in the day was wolf in sheep's clothing. So one of the things we used to do is to do modifications like that, so the car looks completely standard but drives very well. So you know, what Connor's already found out there was the sheer massive difference just a tune-up makes. So if he did a few other modifications, which I think he may do, and I might even get to see the car again, then that will make the absolute best of that car and make it a fantastic driving machine. Okay, so second car. Look at this beauty. MG Metro Mark 1. Beautiful car. Very, very nicely looked after. We look inside. I haven't seen a car, an MG Metro, or a Metro for that matter, in this condition probably ever. It's absolutely fantastic. Beautiful car. So let's go and speak to the owner and see why he's called us down. Okay, this is Matt and his absolutely gorgeous MG Metro Mark 1. So Matt, why have you called me here today?
Well, I've just recently had the subframe in the engine out after the original head gasket failed after 40 years, which is pretty impressive. But whilst I was doing it, I thought I'd renew everything, like replace all the hoses, clips, anything that I could replace that's old stock. But since it's gone back together, it's not running right, it's a bit lumpy, and there's no performance. So
Okay.
that's why I called you out.
So when you say no performance, is it just flat?
It's just flat, yeah. You put your foot down and it thinks for a couple of seconds and then starts to take off. So
And then when it goes, it's particularly lackluster as well, is it?
It is, yeah. It's
Okay.
very flat. So
Okay. All right. Well, the viewers haven't seen it yet, but they don't realise just how far you've gone with your preparation. So
yeah, I've gone a little bit too far.
Let,
But yeah.
Let's go and show them under the bonnet, and then give them an example of what you mean by restoration, because this is a fantastic car. So, take a look at this. Absolutely fantastic. All the plating done. Looks just like it left the factory. Absolutely brand new. Beautifully kept car. So, let's dig in and see what we can find. Okay, I just want to add there, I just showed under the bonnet, every nut and bolt, every washer, every spring washer, pulleys, alternator pulleys, fan, the lot. It had all been plated, faithfully replated, stickers reproduced, absolutely stunning restoration under the bonnet. So yeah, it's a real credit to Matt there, who'd basically gone over and above to make that engine look every bit as good as it did when it was brand new. So I just wanted to say, in my personal view, having all the parts replated and making everything look as it was when it was new makes an absolutely stunning job. Those engines, I think it was 42 years ago now. They look very nice back in the day, but Matt's example has just taken it that little stage further and put the cherry on the top for me. So yeah, hats off to Matt. Very, very good example of the mark. Okay, so on to the finer points of this Metro. So this engine's fitted with a Ducelia ignition, and as you can see, this distributor is absolutely brand spanking new. But distributors are distributors, and that means it doesn't matter what it looks like, the condition it's in. If it hasn't got the right advance curve, it ain't going to work. And this advance is woefully slow. So unfortunately, even though this distributor is new, it's not going to make this engine perform, and it's the main reason why this engine is really dragging its heels. So this has come out, and we're now going to change it to one of my favourite high power spark units. So it's recurved by myself. And we're going to, obviously that means that we're upgrading the engine to electronic ignition. The reason why we're fitting a 59D is it's in keeping with the age of the car, so it looks like a Lucas distributor 59D, but it's going to have a high power coil, and we're going to be able to run bigger spark gaps, 35,000 instead of 25, and therefore we should be able to calibrate this engine so it runs nice and lean. Yet goes really well when you put your foot down. As you could see there, that engine was even fitted with a brand new old stock Ducelia distributor. Unfortunately, some people think that if you buy a new distributor, then it'll work in your engine. Well, that's just about as far from the truth as you could possibly imagine. Distributors all look the same, but they all have different numbers on the side, and the different numbers mean different advance curves. Now, the particular distributor that had been fitted in this engine, although was an original brand new unit, which is in itself difficult to get hold of. So again, Matt went out of his way to do that. Unfortunately, that distributor wasn't the right advance curve for that particular engine, so it was far too slow. So effectively what that did is stunt the performance of the engine to the point where it just didn't want to go. So which is very unlike an MG Metro. So what actually had to happen there is I had to replace that with a recurved unit. Now Matt had already asked me to replace the Ducelia ignition because it had points and he wanted electronic. So being as the MG Metro is a very high compression engine, it could absolutely maximise the use of high energy ignition. So I fitted my usual power spark with a high energy module, with a matching Viper 0.8 ohm coil, and then I was able to increase the spark plug gaps, and it was immediately noticeable when we started the engine that it idled better, but it was also much crisper on the throttle. So let's get back on. Okay, so we got there with this MG Metro. As you can see, we're all back together. So just to recap, we got a high energy Viper coil, 0.8 ohm. Obviously got a recurved ACDodd recurved power spark dizzy with a high power module, new set of leads, and a new set of BP6 ES plugs. These ones are gapped at 35 thou. And then we turn our attention to the airbox and the carburetor. Now this one's fitted with a new old stock SU, which is actually the appropriate one for this car. It's fit with a BDL needle. Now interestingly, this was fueling pretty much spot on at part throttle, but we were going a little bit rich when we were throttling the engine. So I've just thin the oil out in the dash pot. We went from the SU 20 weight down to ATF, so that's just taken the edge off the mixture on acceleration. And I also added a little bit of fuel right at the top end of the rev range on this one, but yeah, the engine's running real strong now. So the major issue about this one was that timing curve in that original Decellier distributor. So let's send the owner out in it now and see what he thinks. Okay, so that engine was fitted with a brand new old stock original factory FZX 1409 carburetor, which is what was fitted originally to that car back in the day. So yeah, again, Matt had gone out of his way to find the original new factory carburetor, which he'd obviously fitted to the vehicle. Subsequently, it was working very well, so that carburetor was working exactly as I would have expected it to, as a brand new unit. So yep, very happy with that. The only problem it did have was it didn't have the ported vacuum, which I like to put on the modern cars, especially cars with a camshaft, because it will lower the emissions which the car will be subject to, the hydrocarbon emissions for the UK MOT. Anyway, moving on. You'll also hear me talk, mention there that it was too rich when you put your foot down. So the accelerator pump effect was too much. Now he was using SU 20 weight oil, which, you know, from his point of view was the recommended oil. But what people don't understand is that accelerator pump effect is calibratable and adjustable. So I was able to reduce the enrichment on acceleration just a little bit by changing that oil down to some ATF oil. That causes the piston to rise a bit quicker, which lowers the depression over the jet during dynamic acceleration, which then obviously leans off the fuel mix just a little bit. So yeah, I've done that modification to the engine together with just adjusting the top end of the needle, and we'll go back now and see what the results are. Okay, Matt, you've been out in the car after the tune. What do you think?
What a difference! Wow, I've never experienced the car drive like this since I've had it. Okay. And I've had it, what, 4 years now? So okay. It's never driven like this.
And you've also had it professionally tuned before, I believe.
I have, yeah. And it didn't respond like this.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, that's really good to hear. Yeah. So probably I would have said, I don't know if you've driven any other Metros, but probably one of the quickest ones you've ever driven, I would imagine.
Yeah, it feels fantastic. I mean, I've never driven a car like this. So.
Excellent. So smoother?
Yeah, much
more
smoother.
Power?
Yep.
Excellent. That's all
exactly
we can ask for.
How it should be.
All right.
No, fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me come down and work on such a beautiful car. So
brilliant.
It's a credit to you. So as ever, as I say to everybody else, wishing everybody else a Merry Christmas. Apologies to Matt there for cutting him short at the end. Due to my own incompetence, I managed to lose the last 2 or 3 seconds of that video clip. But I just wanted to end this one with thanking Matt for organising that day where his car and the Mini were at one venue. That actually saved people obviously time and money, being able to get everybody at that same place. And I also want to take the opportunity to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So let's roll on with the festivities, and I'll see you soon in the new year with more on the road tuning. Look out for season 4. Thank you very much.